just leading with recess. So this is part, of course, the You'll work from home series. And I'm just going to walk through a couple of things. There aren't many slides, but really it's around helping guide around recess with your teams and within one-on-ones. So just as an overall view, recess is defined as a free, unstructured, and active play. It really is that break, that cognitive break from what you're doing on a pretty consistent basis, and allows people to just take a mindful step away from things that are actually happening. So in terms of education, recess is seriously valued in terms of the ROI for it. So a lot of a big study that was actually done around the crucial role of recess in schools found out that during certain times of the day when recess is granted, that actually will help with multiple different things, such as it will help in terms of communication. It helps with sort of taking a break and relaxing the brain from overstimulation. For instance, in some cultures, breaks happen every hour for about 10 minutes, which kind of resets your brain, because your brain can only handle so much and it resets it back down. So if you think about a glass of water and how your brain fills up in terms of water, and then you actually need time to drink it back down, and then you can fill it back up again. That's what recess is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be resetting your brain and helping you move forward. Also, the school study found that when students actually took a recess in the morning before lunch, they found that there was students took time to eat, they took time to socialize, they were more relaxed in how they actually interacted, which was amazing. And then also when students were allowed to just play and there were no guidance in terms of play, it was just, here's a playground, go out and have a good time. They found that when they came back into the classroom, that it was their attention span was much higher. They interacted and shared more, and they also found that they had more patience with other students in the room, which was great. So from this, there were some guidelines that kind of came out from the CDC that said, in terms of teachers, making sure that as leaders, they were trained to reinforce safety on the playground and in the recess. They were trained to actually look for aggression or bullying and actually mitigating that. They were also encouraged students to be more active and like moving around and not just sitting in one space. So actually encouraging engagement throughout the time of recess. So also the National Association for Sports and Physical Education really focused on safety rules, just as the CDC. They also made sure that people understood, and students in schools understood, that physical education is not the same as recess. So even if you think about us as adults, when we go and we exercise in a deliberate manner, that is not a recess. So if I'm going out and running a 5K, that is not a recess. A recess would be something different, where it's not necessarily goal setting. It is actually something I'm doing for enjoyment. So making sure that it's not the same as not considered a physical education course or goal. And also they found that it shouldn't be denied as a punishment. You shouldn't deny children the ability to actually have a recess and a break. It actually then is aligned with a negative thought process. And then also, of course, an outdoor space when the weather allows, to just get people outside and moving around, kids outside and moving around. And they also recommended at least 20 minutes of that, just so that they can sort of decompress it. But as I said earlier, in certain cultures, they do every hour, they do a 10 to 15-minute break, and just sort of like reset and come back in. So at least 20 minutes. So here's the thing, here's the challenge. If we're going to try to harness what a recess is with kids on the playground, et cetera, and in schools, how do we actually move it to the business world? And then of course we're going to add this little virus to it. So now we actually are having, how do we move it to the business world, but then also how do we move it to the business world in a virtual way? So just having some thoughts in terms of like two different aspects of like how you can apply it. You can actually apply it in a one-on-one situation. You can also apply it to actual teams. So I've put together a couple of thoughts around those. So in terms of one-on-one recess guides for leaders, so making sure that when you do your one-on-one check-ins, you actually are making sure that folks are taking a recess and they're actually taking a break from their work. They're not taking a break from their work and then going and doing like learning a new language, because that is also increasing their mind and their brain, and more stuff is getting in there. We want to actually encourage people to take a full break, whether that is like doing like a yoga or a mindful, like a meditation or something of that sort, but actually also going and like taking a walk around the neighborhood. So my husband and I take a walk that's 17 minutes, we've timed it. 17 minutes, it's a loop in our neighborhood. We do that around 10 o'clock, pretty much like every morning. We don't take our phones. If we do take our phone, it's like to take a picture around the neighborhood, but we don't pull it out to look at anything in terms of technology. We really truly take that time to just relax and enjoy the walk around the neighborhood and notice things in nature. So encouraging, so leaders could very well encourage this one-on-one recess and just verifying it's happening. So one of the key things about making sure that it's happening is not to push and find out like, what did that person do? Because you want to maintain that trust and that safety with that individual. Maybe that person just doesn't want to share what they did, but just verifying as a leader or a manager that they are actually taking that break, whether it's in the morning or also potentially in the afternoon as well, just taking that break to just sort of reset and not think in a way that's like super engaging and stressful. And then also during a one-on-one, you might also want to encourage learning goals outside of the recess period. So once again, that kind of parallels the physical activity or the physical ed course is not the same as recess. So encouraging personal learning goals that are outside of the recess course. So a lot of times with one-on-ones, especially now, you do have goals that are set forth in your one-on-one, and then one-on-ones are typically places where you check in on those goals. Go ahead and actually add, if you haven't already, personal learning goals for those individuals. And that's where you as a leader can actually check in with them and actually ask about it specifically. So for instance, for a team member, I would ask like, hey, you know, how are you doing? Are you taking a recess or a break in the morning or the afternoon? Yes or no? Do you want to share? Yes or no? Then let's kind of go through your goals. What's your personal learning goal that you might have for this week or for the next month? And then also, what are the business goals that you have? So you're actually leading with that empathy and compassion to make sure that people are taking care of themselves, and then also continuing to learn and develop, and then also continuing with their goals that they have set forth for the team or for the business itself. So here's a recess guide for leaders. So for leaders in terms of your team, your job is really to be that chief energy officer. So you want to make sure that you're doing like a separate, if you wanted to do a separate recess just for your team. I know a lot of folks are actually doing happy hours, but you want to make sure that you're being inclusive. There may be folks who don't drink, or they find the wording of happy hour is maybe not the best wording for them, and they really want to have like a recess or a break. And so from that, you can actually do some things around creating an actual recess that is not a goal setting or a team check-in in terms of you know, where they are with their goals, but very much a total recess of what they're doing. So making sure that you can, as a leader, you go through, and as a team, you decide what are the guidelines for the recess. For instance, are there rotating facilitators for that recess? Are there rotating activities that you're doing? Do you go back to those activities? What does safety look like for your teams? This is actually really, you can use the agile way of guides, of teaming. That's a really good resource. But then also as a leader, making sure that you're encouraging safety. So much like the CDC and other groups for education encourages safety, and really addressing any conflict resolution very, very quickly. Also making sure staying on track. So if someone is the assigned facilitator for a recess or assigned leader for the resource, making sure that that person helps stay on track. And you really truly are not veering off into work discussions or inappropriate topics. And then also making sure that folks understand like belonging, and you recognize contributions, and really recognizing and taking stock in terms of, are people asking questions? Are folks sharing ideas? Are folks taking turns? This is also a point where you as a leader you're already hyper aware of like your team and sort of their how they work and function. So you may be hyper aware around one person is an extreme introvert and another is an extreme extrovert. So helping to guide, making sure that everyone is either is included, but then also is respected if they don't want to share as much as someone who is as seriously extroverted. Also, you want to actively listen. So really notice that body language and the tone for all the comfort levels for each one. If you actually notice that someone is really uncomfortable or their body language is is showing distancing, then really try to address it in one-on-ones and find out like, are you okay? Is something happened? How can I be supportive? Because when you're on virtual, of course, all you have is really here up. So you don't see necessarily arm movements. So you don't see that I'm moving my arms as much right now, but you do see if I'm moving my hands here. But just be hyper aware that as a leader, you not only focus on what's happening here, but you're also focusing on tone and eye contact and kind of how they're displaying themselves on the screen. Also, continuously demonstrate empathy and compassion. That is a huge thing in terms of understanding where someone's coming from. Most everyone is working remotely. And so being hyper aware that it's hard and being aware of like different people's situations. So you may have a team member who has kids at home, and just being aware that that can be really a struggle, especially if they're doing homeschooling. And also you have folks who are maybe single or at home by themselves with a pet or without a pet. And that can be really extremely hard. So making sure that you're checking in beyond just the team recess. And then also make sure that you laugh and you actually have fun. So you're actually engaging people and giving them time to sort of release and not think about work and not think about have like a happier time or happier moment of their day. So here's a couple ideas that have been floating around and have been tested. But essentially, first one is the first grade pictures. This is a riff on the first grade pictures when you're in onboarding. I've used this in onboarding where people bring in a picture of themselves from like first grade or very young, and they put them up on like a piece of paper in a common area, and people try to guess who they are. So you can easily adapt this to PowerPoint, have one person who's in charge of the first grade picture, and basically you vote as to who they think they are. You can do this online and have a really good laugh about it. And then also there's another one, it's the show and tell home edition, which is super fun. So you can actually share like your favorite mug or a hat or a piece of art. And from that, actually share a story about that. So recently I saw where I engaged with one where we shared, each of us had a hat on. One person had a ski helmet on, and we shared what was the story behind that particular hat. Like, why did I love that hat? Or what was the story behind it? So the person who had the ski helmet actually shared like their favorite ski resort and their favorite experience in that ski resort, which was great. And it really did take the entire time because everyone shared and like got a huge laugh out of the whole thing, which was awesome. There's also the Origami Zoo, where on Monday you're given your origami animal. And if you have your recess, let's say on Thursday or on Friday, you have a whole week to learn how to do your origami animal, and then you do a show and tell during your recess, which is super fun. I have seen one group that actually they learned how to do it, and that Friday was their recess, and they actually demonstrated. They took their animal apart and then put them back together and to demonstrate how to create the origami animal. And the repercussion from that is that people got on Slack and were talking about like, hey, can you show me how to do that? That was super interesting. And I really found that like this particular animal was a little bit easier to do. And so they were actually sharing it with each other, which was great. There's also the fortune teller. So to the right is a fortune teller folding mechanism. So you kind of do this. I don't know how many of you are from the 80s or 70s that actually like did these fortune tellers. So on the outside, you usually had like a color that you would pick, like say red, and you would go R-E-D, and then inside would be like a number, and then you would pick a number, and in that number you'd flip it up and it would tell a fortune, like you're going to have a happy moment at 3 p.m. today, or whatever it might be. Or you can actually, teams have been using it to actually ask questions like, you know, what is your favorite food, or what is your favorite restaurant, or your sport, etc. And then you share it that way, which is super fun because people learn not only how to create a fortune teller, but they also can take turns throughout in each one of the spaces, which is really fun. And then there's a bunch of virtual team buildings that are in this particular link that are super fun and exciting. So that's always being updated pretty consistently. I think they're up to like 47 right now, and it's very short, sort of, this is what it is, this is how long it takes, this is how you sort of facilitate it in about 3 sentences, which is phenomenal. So that is what I have to share. Any questions or thoughts?
Is there something that you could pull a rabbit out of a hat and lead us in a recess activity right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can make the origami thing right now if you wanted, which is super fun. Does everyone have a piece of paper?
Piece of paper, got it, coming up.
Okay. As a side note for the origami thing, I also use that in leadership training, in role plays. So when we practice one-on-ones, I have everyone learn how to make the origami fortune teller. And then within the numbers, I usually put a feeling that happens. So like sad, crying, really happy, super excited. So I have people learn how to like write those in the origami fortune teller. So when we practice one-on-ones, it is totally random as to what emotion is going to happen from that person. So I might say you're telling someone about, you're giving them feedback around X, and then that person, the leader does the origami thing and they pick one, and they may pick hyper emotional, and they're like, oh, okay, how do I change that as a leader? And it's pretty interesting. People seem to really enjoy it. So I've folded the paper up like this. Unless you have a perfect square piece of paper, which would be amazing. Okay, and then I am taking this top part off. So you end up with a square. Okay, Then what I'm going to do is fold each one of these in like this. So I create here, and then create.
So again, folding something in like what?
It looks like this. It's almost like an envelope.
Okay.
That. And then I'm going to do the same thing inside the other way. So it looks like this. So we've got two sides.
Did you fold the other side?
I folded the other side.
So
this is side one.
Yeah.
And then I flipped it over and I did the same thing. Good. Okay, so here's the really important part. Before you finish it off, like move it into its fun little shape, this is where you actually want to write on there. So on this side that has the little openings like this, you want to write a color like blue, red, green, orange. So everyone do that.
Inside or?
So like here, if you can see. So this is the outside part, and then this is the inside part. So inside has two spaces. So like 1, 2. And this is the outside part. This is blue. Okay.
I'm discovering this requires a certain amount of precision in folding. I'm on my second iteration now.
Oh yeah, but you'll get it. You'll get it. You should, yes, very good. So you have blue on the, you have like colors on the outside and numbers on the inside?
Yeah.
Yeah? You did it perfectly.
I had same colors like you. Red, green, yellow, blue.
Yeah. It's so great. It's super easy.
I remember I used to make this in the school.
Yeah, exactly. So you do this.
Yeah.
How you doing, Brian?
Well, I think I'm at the point where you said to write something on the on this side.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So colors.
Okay. And what comes after that?
So you did colors on the outside, right? And then you do numbers on the inside.
Show me what does the inside look? Okay. Oh. How do I get from my flat stuff to the point where it's supposed to write numbers on the other side?
You did the numbers on the other side?
Okay. I see what you're saying. All right. So there should be a total of 8. Okay.
Yep.
I think we can write something inside those flaps also, the numbers.
Yes. So so the next direction is underneath the numbers, write something here. You can write 2 or you can write just 1.
Okay. Now then what?
So under the numbers, you can actually write a statement. Or,
okay. For the sake of exercise, I just wrote letters, but okay.
Okay. Okay. And then kind of fold it in half, and then fold it.
Fold it.
So here's your colors.
Colors on the outside. Fold it in half with colors on the outside.
Half, so colors on the outside, and then fold it again the other way. And that makes it easier. So fold it this way and fold it this way.
Okay.
And that makes it easier for you to grab it like this.
Ah, yes.
Yay!
Yes. Yay!
Yay! That's perfect. That's perfect. That's wonderful.
I have not seen one of these things in 40 years.
I know, right? I know, right? It's amazing. It's so much fun.
Yes.
But you can write anything in those, right? You can write, and you can keep these. If this is like one of your first team events, like you can keep these for a while. So like maybe one person has like a trivia question under like one, or has like, you know, something to do, like go drink out of a mug, or you can have like anything in there, or you can have just a fortune, like you will smile over something around something today. So it's just a really fun way of doing it. And you can also use it for like just regular team meetings. Instead, like if you want to start with a recess for like 5 or 10 minutes, if you have a full hour meeting, that's fine. But really like trying to keep it separate, so that you can really truly engage for like, 30 minutes or so with the team. It doesn't have to take that long.
Cool.
Yeah, super fun.
So when you say like to engage the team, right? So we build these already and then do the fun thing, or make the team do this?
Yeah, so as a team, you can all learn how to create one, like we just did,
Okay.
which is super easy. And then inside, like you can talk to the team and get them to, in the presentation, there's a little link that has recommendations of what you can actually write inside. So as a team, you can decide like, I want to write an actual fortune, or if you want to have the team, like a fortune cookie, right? Or you can have the team maybe decides to, who, like an activity or something that they have to do, like go and put on a funny hat, or show us your favorite mug, or anything fun like that. So let the team decide what they want to do with it, because it's their recess. Yeah, that's what I had. All right, any questions? Happy to be a resource for anyone. So thanks. The next one that is scheduled for tomorrow, which is super exciting, is Kelly Busby, who's going to talk on radical simplicity to find equanimity. It's about a 40-minute gentle yoga meditation time frame, which is going to be really helpful around Thursday. So that's going to be great. Okay.